Hello guys, welcome to What the What. I am Sam and I am really excited about today's topic because it's one of my favorite topics of all time. So just to get into it, right, we're going to talk about past life regression, and I absolutely love past life regression. It's simply just amazing. So to cover what it is, past life regression is a form of hypnosis, right? And what it does is it puts you in a hypnotic state that can take you back through your past lives. And this is so cool. It is so amazing. And it is also, it helps in so many ways, in so many aspects of your life. For instance, I've done several of these myself, and every time I go to a past life, I learn so much about myself that I didn't even realize, right? And to me, that in and of itself is simply amazing, to learn why you do this or why you like that, or why in the world did I get in that relationship? I never would have done that had I realized, but you did it for a reason. And that's what's important here. So past life regression can not only just be fun and interesting, but it can help you heal in areas you didn't even know needed healing. And it's just fantastic. So let's dive into it. If you are interested in topics like this, I urge you to like and subscribe. Leave me some comments. Tell me what other topics you want me to cover. If I do not have the knowledge, I have several people in my repertoire, as it were, that can help out. This is a community of like-minded people, and I really want to build it. I really want us to be able to help each other and raise our vibrations together, and really just be that community, that's there for each other. So many people are lost right now in this world, and it's heartbreaking. So if you can be there for other people that get you and get your the way that you think, put that out there. Help each other. That's the whole thing of my channel. So let's dive in, shall we? Past life regression is PLR. That's what I call it, because writing it out all the time is just crazy. So past life regression, absolutely love it. Cannot say that enough. But I want to put a little disclaimer here right off the bat. If you get into doing past life regressions and you find them interesting and oh my goodness, they're helping so much and all of this stuff, I want you to be really careful. So some of the best advice I got with this was from my godmother. After I did my second one, I called her because she was part of it. And I had to tell her, oh my gosh, you were my mom in another life. It's just great. And, we got to talking about it. And towards the end of our conversation, she says, I've done these myself, and I want to warn you. Be careful about the rabbit hole. And I was like, what do you mean? And she says, well, you can get so focused on what happened in the past that you forget to live now. There are things that you need to do here. And there are relationships you need to build here. And there are people that are waiting for you in this life to show up. And I will never forget that as long as I live. Love you, Grandma B. But it makes a really good point, and you can kind of get swooped up in this, because with me personally, I get on a topic and I want to find everything out about it that I possibly can, and sometimes that takes weeks, months, even years. And so you do kind of take each one with a grain of salt. I don't recommend doing back to back past life regressions, because I think in each past life regression there are things that you need to extrapolate and work through before you move on to the next one. Heal from that first one and then see where your past life regressions take you, because that will be your next step. Okay? So, having said that, I do want to talk about, and my ex might kill me, but to give you an idea. Yeah, everybody always told me when you first do a past life regression, it's going to take you someplace that you probably really, really love, for no reason. Like, I always had a strong connection to Spain for some reason. No idea. None of my family is from Spain, or really had anything to do with Spain, but I always had a strong connection to Spain. So I thought I'd end up in Spain, right? That's the one that was on my brain at the time that and this was 2010. I mean, it was years ago, guys. So anyway, that's not where I ended up. I ended up in Australia. I no connection, never felt one way or another about Australia. Wow, that was a bad double chin. Anyway, but yeah, I ended up in Australia. This was the first one I ever did. So we kept the person that was putting me through the past life regression, always use someone you trust, because things can go sideways. I'll get into that in a minute. Stay tuned. But we did really short ones just to see if we could do it. Had no idea what was coming for us or anything, but this is somebody that I really trusted with my life, right? So, very short, I ended up in Australia, and when I first got there, I was a child, and I remember living out on like this savanna type of area, in what I called kind of a hut, right? It was I mean, it had a structure to it. It wasn't just a hut, but it was clay type of stuff, thatch roof. And I knew that my father and I lived there, and I didn't recognize him from any of my other lives. He was just my father. But as I'm walking towards the hut, I see this dog, and I can still see him so clearly in my mind. Scraggly dog, brown, had this wiry type of hair, medium size. I start crying. Now, guys, anybody who knows me, I'm not a crier. I do not like to cry. I'm an ugly crier. I don't like how I look when I cry. So I started crying under hypnosis because of this dog. And I mean, I just loved this dog, and I could feel the love for this animal. And somewhere in my memory, I remembered when the dog had died and how sad I was. But moving forward, the person that was doing my regression was like, let's move forward, because she saw that I was getting emotional and a little disconcerted. So we moved forward, and during this life, years ahead, my father got really ill, and I don't know, like I said, I didn't spend enough time in this past life regression to tell you what it was, but he was really ill, and he knew he was going to die. And before he died, I was probably about 16 or 17 at the time, he wanted to make sure I was taken care of because we didn't have any other family. And so he arranged a marriage. And I mean, at the time, it was 1700s, I think it was. I'll have to look at my journal. But 1800, somewhere around there. British occupation. Come on, Brits. Tell me. When was that? I know you're all screaming at the YouTube thing now. But anyway, I digress. So he decides that he's going to marry me off to this gentleman's son down the way. And we get married, and my father passes away, and I don't love this person. I like this person that I'm married to, but I don't love them. And with the death of my father, I became an alcoholic myself, and that's maybe why I don't drink in this life. But to the point where I suffered liver damage and died from liver damage. And I'm seeing in my mind, towards the end of my life, my husband in that life is sitting next to the bed with me. And I mean, the room's rather dreary. It's, like I said, mud walls and straw of some kind mixed in with all of that, and a thatch roof, and because we moved into the house that my father and I had. And he's sitting by the bedside, and I started to apologize to this guy. And I said, I'm so sorry. I should have been a better wife. I should have given you children. And, all of these things that, come at the end of life statements, if you will. And I told him, if there is such a thing as coming back, I promise sometime I will give you children. And after that, I was brought out of the regression. So, moving forward into this life, my present life, I couldn't understand why in the world I married the man that I did. And through all of the heartache and the strife and everything, turns out, those deathbed things might be worth something, because I had promised him in that life that at one point I would give him children. And I did. They're great kids. I love my kids. Don't get me wrong. But it was all about fulfilling that promise. And I learned more into it that he was put in my life. I chose to have him in my life, in this life. And I chose him because I knew of the hardships that would come from it, so that I would learn from those. So when somebody says, everything happens for a reason, it does. And all the bad, negative people that have been put in your life, they're there for a reason. Whether you made a promise to them, and a soul promise to them, or whether you simply have to learn from that mistake. They were put in your life by you. You have no one else to blame. That's the kicker, So that is an important life lesson in and of itself. Absolutely loved it. And it really did make me realize a lot about myself. I'm not a drinker in this life. I'm not. And maybe the reason is because I was an alcoholic in my past life, So, okay, so moving on a little bit, that's just kind of what a past life regression is like. I chose to go with the short one simply because otherwise this video, I could do past lives, guys, that would be my only topic. I could do that. There's so many interesting stories that happen with those. But moving forward, I do want to say, you need to use past life regression as a tool, not to get caught up. That's that slippery slope into that rabbit hole. But use it as a tool to find out not only more about yourself, but why you've put people in your life. Again, you did it. No one to blame. Not sugarcoating. Help you learn and help you grow. Help your soul grow. I want to focus on the fact that you really do need to use somebody that you trust. Somebody that has done this before. The person that I did this with initially, the first one that we did with her, it was awful. I'm not going to go into that as her story to share, but it was horrific, and I had to pull her out. And if she didn't trust me enough to listen to what I was saying and that it really was okay, and all of these other techniques that you use, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know how she would have carried that over into this life, So make sure it's somebody that you trust, or that has at least done these quite a few times, so that they know how to handle, if you do have some really deep stuff that affects you harshly, one way or the other. that they can get you back to that center. Okay. Very, very, very important. So yeah, it's about healing with past life regression. It's about acknowledgement, and it's about how does it apply? Okay, you can't go back and change that life. How do you use it in this life? Right? Okay, so again, if you guys are interested in this topic, maybe you're not as interested as I am, but if you are, like and subscribe so you can see more videos like this, and leave me a comment if you're interested in doing past life regression, or experiences that you guys have had that you can share with the rest of the group. You know, all about that community, guys. Also, I want to kind of give you guys a bit of proof, and this is proof for me that past lives are a real thing. Okay, so I mentioned in the first past life I was in Australia. What I didn't tell you is the pre-story. Okay, so while I was started getting interested in this past life regression thing, the whole thing that sparked it, and I will leave a link to below for the book, was a book by Sylvia Browne called Past Life Regression, Past Lives, Future Healing. Yes, and she talks about life on the other side. And part of that is when you leave this world, when you leave this reality, is there life on the other side? And she talks about what heaven is like. And this very much intrigued me. And I really, really wanted to see what I would see there, because you hear of people with the near-death experiences that have all these very similar type of experiences, but I wanted to see what my version of heaven or the other side would look like. And so the person that I did my first past life regression, I said, listen, okay, I want to do the past life regression thing, but first I want you to take me through to the other side. Okay? And she's like, yeah, okay, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so I every time I talk about this, I get goosebumps because it's so real to me, you know. And so I go through the history of my life now and down into the corridor and onto the other side, and I go through this light hallway type of situation and into like a clearing of green grass, and I can see it in my head. And so if I'm not making eye contact, I'm trying to really see it so I can explain it really well for you guys. So there's this clearing, and there's like this hill down here, but I'm up here, and in front of me there's a pathway that leads up to a huge, almost French type of fountain. It's just enormous and it's glorious, and there's lily pads and lotus flowers floating in the water around the bottom, and then there's like these semicircular benches that go all the way around the fountain, and there's, you know, beautiful huge stones kind of in the background. And as I came through, I met my spirit guide. And if you guys don't know what spirit guides are, Sylvia Browne will tell you all about it. Really cool. Love you, Arthur. So I meet Arthur, and he's like, you're what are you doing here? You know? And I was like, I was curious. You knew this was going to happen. He's like, yeah. He's like, so what do you think? And I said, well, it's beautiful. It's warm, you know, and not hot, just like the perfect temperature, if you will. It just felt cozy. And behind me, I could see buildings, and I knew that one of them was called a viewing area where you could see your life this last life that you experienced, and you went in and you worked on that, and then you saw your past lives so that your soul kind of reconnected with everything that was going on. And then there was a hall of records, and then there was this other area where kind of a conference type of situation, and it was just so beautiful and wonderful. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you everything because I want to hear your experiences and what you guys see and do and all that stuff. But my youngest child was probably about, I want to say 4 or 5 at this time, okay? And I was still going through the divorce. And so it was Monday. And I worked nights and he worked days, so it really worked out well. I would pick up my youngest and take her home for the day and look after her, take her back when I had to go to work. Good system. So I pick her up and we're on our way back to my place. And I asked her, just casually, what'd you do this weekend? And she says, oh, we went to church. I said, that's fantastic. What'd you learn at church? And she says, well, we were talking about Jesus. I said, good topic. What do you guys learn? And she says, well, I think it was around Easter too. And she says, well, we were talking about death, and Jesus dying and heaven. And I said, oh, well, that's pretty cool. I said, what do you think about heaven? And she never get enough of this story. She turns around, she goes, I don't think. I know. 4 years old. And I was like, oh, as parents do. Okay, so, tell me about it. And she says, oh, it's a garden. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah. Well, that's where you go. You go to the garden. And I was like, okay, so there's a garden. She's like, yeah, you can go to the library too. What? She's like, yeah, there's like this library up there. There's this, it's really green. It's really great. And yeah, either that or she can go to the TV room. That's what she called it, the viewing room, the TV room. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I said, how do you know all this? And she's like, I just do. End of conversation. Because then she was on to SpongeBob. And I mean, that's how a 4-year-old works, But oh my God, never said anything to this kid. Never would. I mean, at that age, out of the mouth of babes, That's what it is. Out of the mouth of babes. So that was confirmation enough for me. And I love that story. I love telling that story because it still just floors me that she did that. And I remember the person that sent me through my past life regression and heard all of this, called her right away after we had reached my place. And I said, you're not going to believe what just happened. I said, I had the oddest conversation with that child. And I told her about it. She's like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah. She's like, oh my God. I was like, I know. How cool. Anyway, so that is my introduction to past life regressions, crazy as it is. If you guys liked it, let me know. If you guys want me to move on to something else, I'm more than happy to do so. But thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next video of What the What? And have a good day.